some memories you maybe have with your grandfather, how it was to grow up with a grandfather who was so well known? He was a president. I mean, that's incredible. How was that being a grandson?
Well, I didn't even know he was president. My family didn't tell me.
Wow.
Really?
I found out in school. The joke being, thank God it was first grade and not high school.
Were you alive whenever he was president?
No.
No.
Okay, he left office in early 1953. I was born in 1957.
So right after.
Right.
And so what are your memories of growing up with him?
Well, that's actually one of the earliest memories. I went to school and my first grade teacher said, "Wasn't your grandfather President of the United States?" And I said, "I don't know."
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll go home and ask. And I did. And my mother loved telling this story. I dropped my book bag at the front door and I marched across the living room and I said, "Mom, did you know that Grandpa Truman was President of the United States?" And she said, "Yes, but just remember something. Any little boy's grandfather can be president. Don't let it go to your head."
Wow.
That's incredible.
So those lessons started early. The earliest memory I have, when he came to visit us, he stayed down the street at the Carlisle Hotel in New York. I lived in Manhattan. I grew up in Manhattan. And he got up every morning, 5:30, went for a 1-mile walk at a military pace, 120 steps a minute. Came back to the hotel, got as many newspapers as he could find, tucked them under his arm, walked up the block, let himself into our apartment with the spare key, and sat down and started reading until somebody woke up. And my brother and I, my younger brother and I, were the first ones down one morning, and we saw him behind the newspaper, so we tried to sneak past him to get into the den and the television set. And he caught us, and he said, "Where do you think you're going?" And I said, "Into the den to watch Bugs Bunny." And he said, "You don't want to do that." I'm sure I thought, yes, I do. And he said, "I have a much better idea." And he walked between us and he took a book down from the top shelf and he came out and he sat down and he said, "You come here and sit down." Well, you didn't argue with him. So we sat down and he started to read, and my mother came down 15, 20 minutes later and stopped cold at the bottom of the stairs. We weren't moving. My brother and I were sitting stock still, not making a sound, while Grandpa read to us from a book that didn't have any pictures in it. And she said, "What are you reading to them?" And he held up the book so she could see it. It was Thucydides, History of the Peloponnesian War, Greek history, at 6 o'clock in the morning to a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So, you know, he had some odd ideas about, reading was very important to him. He started way early. He read Peloponnesian War as a child. So he figured, sure, I should too. That's tough reading.
Yeah. And then a question that I have that's just kind of stuck out to me is, I remember learning about your grandfather in history in textbooks. And so what has it been like as you've grown up and you've become a man and you have a family, and now your kids are learning about your grandfather in textbooks? How's that been, seeing that?
Same thing. I mean, I learned about him in textbooks. I mean, I would get, and I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I'm sure sometimes you read about him in a textbook and you go, "Oh yeah, you know, Mom told me that already." And sometimes you read something that's a little more obscure, and then I'd go home and say, "Really? Yeah, I didn't know that." Mostly they did not, they tried to keep it from interfering with our lives. My grandfather actually once said, he was quoted as saying that presidents shouldn't have descendants because the descendants will spend their lives with people thinking they should live up to their ancestors. So they didn't want it to push us one way or the other. So it wasn't discussed a whole lot. I mean, you know, the fact of it was always there, but we didn't make a big deal out of it. If I had a question, I asked a question. If I didn't. But having my own kids, I mean, I just let them do it themselves. When my daughter Amy is 30, she'll be 31 in August. When she was 6 years old, we were sitting watching television, trying to find something that the two of us could watch, which isn't easy. So we're flipping through the channels, and I stopped on a biography of my grandfather, just happened to be on. And I said, "Amy, that man right there, that's Harry S. Truman. He's the 33rd President of the United States. He was your great-grandfather." And she said, "Daddy, go back, you passed Nickelodeon."
Wow, that's
So, I mean, she knows now. All three of the kids have done Truman family work with me. Wesley has been my stand-in at a fundraiser at the Truman Library. He's been my stand-in down in Key West, Florida, at the Little White House.